Wine. This is Valerie Hale. Welcome to my podcast. Perception is one of the 6 mental faculties that Merci and Bob Proctor discuss on their really cool audio program called Magic in Your Mind. My bike was stolen on Sunday afternoon. I did not respond in the way I've learned from Merci and Bob Proctor. I was hysterical. I've had this bike for 20 years. I am a huge bicyclist. This bicycle has been on 2 Grand Fondo races in New York. It's been everywhere with me. It's the love of my life. I sold my car so I don't have to drive any longer because I'm retired from the wine industry. I had come home from lunch with a friend, changing shoes because I was in sandals and a dress. 10 minutes, went outside, and the love of my life was gone. Of course, I called the police. I did all the things you were supposed to do. What I did, however, is react hysterically. Yeah, Mary would give me an F. I was knocking on my neighbor's doors. I live in a beautiful, expensive, with no security apartment complex on Boca Ciega Bay. Knocking on my neighbor's doors who are friends and alerted them that my bike was stolen. I was running down the sidewalk screaming that I hated seaside villas. Folks, it was not pretty. Why perception is so important in this instance is because I really needed to calm down. And I needed to look at it in a different way. I think it is natural when something bad happens to react. But I allowed it to escalate. One, I was screaming hysterically that I hated seaside villas. I would say for about 30 minutes, I was hysterical. And I perceived this as one of the worst things that could happen to me. Dr. Richard Pritchett says, even in the darkest clouds are the shiniest and silvery clouds. And I began to realize all my friends were helping me. They got in their cars, they got on their bikes, went around the neighborhood. I had to stay put because of the police. We had to do the report. I began to realize what Mary has taught and what Dr. Richard Pritchett says, something good always comes from a difficult situation, even a tragic situation, which for me this is because it's a pandemic. I really don't feel like going out and buying a $900 bike. I am blessed, however, that my neighbor is allowing me to use her beautiful bike for as long as I want. That's something good that has come out of this. The other idea is that I have told myself a story that whoever stole my bike needed it to buy food for their family. Perception, that's what I'm working with. And to respond and not to react. The other aspect that's important from this, which Mary illustrates in 2 stories. She lives in Montecito, California. It's the home of wildfires. There were wildfires going on in this particular season, and she and her husband were paying attention to the newscast to see if they were going to be endangered. The news anchors were out in one neighborhood interviewing a couple, and they were absolutely distraught. They were hanging on each other, clinging and crying, and just overwhelmed with where to begin to start a new life. And the news anchorman approached them and said, how do you feel? And they said, well, we've lost everything. We don't even know how to start over. And they were just overwhelmed. They didn't know where to start. Yes, it's a tragedy. The next couple, they went a few blocks away, and they were also looking at the burned rubble and the rubbish and the ashes and the ruins. And they asked them, how do you feel about this? And they said, well, look, it's a tough situation, but we have each other, we have our family, our animals survived. This is just stuff. We can start over. And that's what kept running through my mind when I was crying and being a snot. One of the attendants told him to go back in his apartment. It was none of his business, because my friends were there helping me and he was just being nosy. Now that's something that was not good behavior either. You move forward. I was sitting outside later in the day, and this is when I was starting to calm down and I was becoming clear in my mind. The perception was becoming what it should be, meaning to respond and not to react. And I was entertaining this thought that, that bike is the love of my life. It carries so much memories. And I figuratively slapped my forehead and went, no, Valerie, your memories are in your mind. And that's what perception is all about at the end of the day. It's one of our mental muscles that creates the memories. Your perception is in your mind. And that's what I want to leave you with is, yeah, I made an F grade at the beginning. I think at the end, I was at a B because I told everybody and I thanked everybody who helped me. And I still believe that something good is going to come from this. It's not just that my friend has loaned me her bike. There's other things that will come of this. And I do believe that whoever stole the bike, they sold it to put food on their family's table. Kundalini Yoga. I do Kundalini Yoga every day, and I have been doing it every day for 26 years. Now, I'm in my 60s. And the other day when Hara Prakash was doing a class, she was great. She said, now I can't get in this position. My body won't allow me any longer. And she's much younger than I am. But one of the things that the teachers do in Kundalini Yoga, they will always suggest alternative positions so that you don't hurt any part of your body. I greatly appreciate that because there are several positions I just can't get in any longer. So even though Kundalini Yoga can be challenging sometimes, it's a very calming and restful yoga. I do it every morning. Go to my website, shayvalerie.us. CHEZVALERIE.us. Go to my website and click on yoga. You'll get free classes or sign up for her newsletter. She's on YouTube. Also, as far as the wealth tab, I have 2 free master classes on there. They are wonderful. They are helping me through this pandemic and my new career. But there's also under Magic in Your Mind. If you click on that, you have 1 free lesson because they don't do a master class. The other thing I like about Kundalini Yoga is the music. I don't know about any other types of yoga out there, folks. I only have studied Kundalini Yoga. For me, the music is inducive to a calming effect. You can play a mantra, which is the music. It's repetitive. It is a loop. But this is what all performers do, all athletes. They practice over and over and over. Repetition is what's going to get you to where you want to go. And that's what the music is. There's a very calming music that will help you in your grieving. It's called A Call. And it's unearthly. It's beautiful, calming music. Also, there is another beautiful song that I sent to my girlfriend who had brain surgery. She had brain cancer. She's never practiced yoga, but she told me and her husband told me that she listened to this music every day, and she continues to, and she really believes that this music helped her get through the recovery of the surgery. I cannot upload the links to my podcast website, but if you will send me an email when you go to my website, shayvalerie.us, more than happy to send you the song that way. Ports. I have been talking about in our section of wine about ports which are from Portugal. There are 3 kinds that you want to entertain: Ruby, Tawny, and late bottle vintage. We call the late bottle vintage LBV. Ruby is what most people imbibe. It is a fruitier style of wine, and even though I have said in the past that it's a perfect winter wine, it's heavy, it's unctuous, it's very rich. Now that we're getting into warmer seasons, mixologists are using the ports as a base for a lot of their cocktails, so you explore that. I think the ruby wines go really well with your richer meals, definitely going to go well with barbecue. Even though I'm a vegetarian, I barbecue every vegetable under the sun. I've even made risotto on the grill. Then you want to explore Tawny. Tawny is a different type of port that's going to be a little lighter in its flavor profile. It's nutty. Therefore, think of what kind of foods you would have this with. Again, it's a nice afternoon cocktail to have with cheese and fruit and some mixed nuts. You can do Tawny with some foods. I would have to experiment. I think actually, because I do love risotto and I love a rich sauce with risotto, I think that the Tawny would be really nice with risotto dishes. Try that. LBV, the late bottle vintage, is actually aged for a few years and then it's released. What's interesting about late bottle vintage, all three of those, the ruby, the Tawny, and the late bottle vintage, can be drunk immediately. Even though the late bottle vintage is a specific vintage, it's aged much longer, 4 to 6 years. And it's very big. This is definitely an after dinner concoction. I wouldn't have it by itself, and you know, definitely dessert wines, it certainly would be great with a chocolate cake and some rich flan, perhaps. They're worth trying. To recap, perception. Don't react, respond. Try to get a B, not an F. Again, I want to remind you, though, that it's in your mind, perception. And take those deep breaths. That was not working for me on Sunday. Really believe that the darkest clouds have the shiniest, most silver linings. Just believe that and make that your mantra when something that you don't want to have happen, when you have challenges. Believe that. Kundalini Yoga has the most beautiful music, the mantras. And port, there are 3 now that I have suggested for you. They are worth exploring. Get all 3. Go ahead, splurge. And in conclusion, when you go to my website, shayvalerie.us, you have 3 choices to enhance your lifestyle. The whole reason I am doing this podcast is for folks to improve their life, one topic at a time. Merci beaucoup et au revoir.